And that's one of the big reasons why I'm defending him, because I just believe he's not going to date the traditional way this season, and people are going to be really upset about it.
To me, it felt like Sierra was the one who was going there with him in a way that doesn't feel like Danielle quite is.
Hi, we're Julie and Kelly, and we're here to find love. Today, we are doing a Bachelor in Paradise 2022 recap, Season 8, Week 4. This week's 2 episodes was super juicy with the Love Island Casa Amor twist. We see new couples emerge on the beach with Michael and Danielle, Rodney and Eliza, plus Lace, who now became the third wheel. Kelly, let's get started on the recap.
So let's start with Monday night's episode. In Monday night's episode, we started off with the Peter drama. Basically, Peter gets voted off the beach. I mean, he was such a, I can't even waste breath on him because he's such a loser, honestly. Again, I feel bad for Brittany. I just wish she didn't have to go through all of that with him. I was happy at least the guys kind of rallied behind her. Casey left on an ambulance. It was all very confusing. I'm just going to keep moving on. Let's get to the real stuff. I think the real drama of Monday night's episode was what happened with Michael and Danielle. So basically, Michael was about to get sent home. He was about to leave. There was no one there to give him a rose. And I think a lot of people were sad about it on the beach because a lot of people like Michael. And so the producers sent down Danielle at the 11th hour to give him a rose. And there's been a lot of pushback against these two, or really just against Michael. The internet has basically turned on him for dumping Sierra for moving too fast, right? That's kind of why he dumped her, only to kind of dive head first into this relationship with Danielle. I mean, he was googly eyed over her when she walked down the beach. And I think people are also upset that Michael just seems to be getting some special treatment on the show, with Danielle kind of being served up to him on this gold platter right before the rose ceremony. It does seem like Michael and Danielle already knew each other to some extent before the show. I think they were just exchanging DMs, that kind of thing. But obviously the producers knew about it and had been planning to set them up all along this whole season, which does seem pretty unfair to Sierra. It now feels like she was kind of set up to fail, honestly. While this was all happening, Sierra tweeted out live while the episode was airing, "I feel highly disrespected. I need to go meditate." So it does seem like even she felt like there was something fishy about how it all went down. It kind of reminds me of the drama from the last season of Bachelor in Paradise, or maybe it was 2 seasons ago, I can't remember, when Brendan strung along Natasha for 4 weeks only to promptly dump her as soon as Piper showed up. And it was clear that Brendan and Piper were basically dating prior to the show, and they were just intending to meet each other here and keep dating. I don't know. What do you think, Julie?
I know that a lot of people are kind of glossing over the fact that he's a widow, but he is a widow. His wife did just die. They had a child together. No matter how far, if it's 3 years after she passed away, it still doesn't really go into the fact that he is still in a lot of grief about that, and he's not going to be dating in the most conventionally understood way by a lot of people, and that just has to be understood. Yeah. I think that's why the Bachelor producers are giving him a Joe the Grocer Bachelor edit. He is clearly getting a favorite edit, which is, in my opinion, out of all of the white men that they've done this to, Michael is the least problematic person, I think. I really do believe that he was waiting for her to show up on the beach. He met Sierra and he was really surprised about his connection of Sierra, but he didn't like Sierra enough to forego his earlier connection of Danielle, which is pretty established when she came down the beach. I do believe that they're gonna last a long time and they will make it to the very end. An engagement, I'm not entirely sure. It just really depends on how quickly their story takes place. But it was surprising how he told Danielle, "I think we're as strong as Serene and Brandon." Do you remember that?
See, that's the thing with, I can't believe
that was a little weird when he said that.
I had trouble rooting for him in this moment as this was unfolding. As, he was starting to get to know Danielle, it felt like he was so immediately excited by her and enamored. So immediately all in a way that felt so different from how he was with Sierra. I actually thought that Danielle and Michael didn't have that good of a connection and didn't have the best compatibility ever, at least from the conversations that we saw in that episode. You know, I don't know, maybe they had other conversations that we didn't see or whatever, but from what we saw, I mean, obviously they both experienced this immense loss, this grief in their lives, and so they can connect on that. But even the way they were talking about it during their one-on-one date, it felt pretty misaligned or different. Like, Michael is clearly so thoughtful and was asking these really insightful questions about his own experience and trying to understand if Danielle related. And Danielle was kind of just like, yeah. And then she was just like, here's all the details of how my guy died. But she wasn't able to meet Michael with the level of depth that he was kind of wanting to go in. She was just kind of like, here's a quote from a song that I like. Like, it wasn't like she was able to really go there. Definitely not to the same degree that Sierra was. Like, it felt like Sierra, when she was having conversations with Michael about the grief, like, man, she was asking such thoughtful questions to him. Like, she was clearly such a good conversationalist. She's so introspective. She was able to kind of meet Michael and go deep with him. Not that there's anything wrong with Danielle. It just seemed like she couldn't quite keep up with his like level of emotional depth. It felt like there was just far less substance, honestly, to their conversation. Again, just from what we saw than what we saw between Sierra and Michael. Like, I felt like Sierra and Michael's conversations made me cry. They were really, both of them were really going in, versus in these conversations, I felt like Michael was going in and Danielle was just kind of like, yeah, here's a quote from a song.
It kind of is interesting. It's the other dynamic, right? Where he is kind of wanting to move a little bit faster and she is a little bit slower in sharing. That could be really attractive to Michael when he just had a girl who literally bought a piece of the sky for his dead wife and his child. Like, that could be such a contrast that he's like, okay, Danielle is great. She's gonna be okay with slowing down. She understands that I've been through. He could be filling in the lines a lot too. So there's a lot of different methods it could go.
I'm like really shocked to hear you defending Michael. I can't believe it.
Because I just feel like, I mean, this is some of the work I want to do. I really want to work in grief. I want to be like a death doula. And a lot of the books, the literature I read about in grief is that it just stays with you for such a long time.
Oh, totally.
And I really do think that is affecting how he's dating and why he's getting such an edit. And why I also feel like out of all of the people on the beach, I would want to defend someone that is going through that processing versus anyone else that's just casually dating.
For me personally, I just can't help but notice that the first thing that came out of his mouth when Danielle walked down the beach was, oh, this beautiful blonde appeared before me. And it was just like, I don't know, it kind of gave me like a weird, I don't know, there was something weird about it. To me, it felt like Sierra and Michael were actually on the same wavelength. Sierra was more willing to go there with him in a way that Danielle, like you saw on the boat, they were sitting there. Michael's talking about his experience dating through grief. He's trying to have that conversation with her and he's like, what are you thinking about? And she was just kind of like, oh, I just want to make out. Or she didn't say those words, but she was like, oh, you don't know what I'm thinking? She was clearly asking him to kiss. And I was like, Michael's trying to talk about his grief. Why are you just like trying to pivot and talk about making out? And so like, I don't know, there were like moments like that where I was just like, they just seem out of sync to me. Like, I feel like of anyone to support a guy who is trying to learn how to live life and date and be in new relationships following grief, to me it felt like Sierra was the one who was going there with him in a way that doesn't feel like Danielle quite is. Not that, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with Danielle. She seems wonderful. But like, I guess for me, it's this question of, like, Danielle feels like she is getting all these brownie points for kind of doing the bare minimum. What I felt watching this scene was like, man, who do you choose to open up your heart to? Like, it feels like Michael was willing to open up his heart to Danielle in a way that he just wasn't willing to open up his heart to Sierra. And I think Danielle is wonderful. And I also think that she's kind of being given this chance by default, even though there have been signs just in the scene that we saw that there's actually like a misalignment between them in terms of personality. But, you know, it's kind of like, I mean, in Michael's words, Danielle is like this beautiful blonde. She truly is like so cute. She's the like paradise ideal in a lot of ways. And even though their initial interactions honestly weren't anything special, Michael just walked away being like, this was the best first date ever. So to me, that was the thing that felt weird. It was like that juxtaposition, like seeing Danielle get this chance and have Michael just be so head over heels for her, kind of without her doing anything. And it's like a chance that Sierra kind of wasn't given. And that's kind of the thing that I think feels stinky to me. I don't have any problem with Michael. It just felt a little, just the way that he was moving through these two dynamics and relationships, it just felt a little bit weird and stinky to me.
I do hear what you're saying about him and Sierra's connection, but just because you have an amazing date with someone doesn't automatically mean that you want to be in a relationship with them.
Yeah, definitely.
And I do think that him and Sierra had such an amazing connection, but it didn't do anything to quell his anxieties about really going in deeper with her, because it's like, with Danielle, it feels a little bit more like she's apprehensive. She's not really digging into the details with him as much. She just really wants to get to know him and maybe just be a little bit more physical. It felt like Sierra had like a crowbar and she was like prying stuff from Michael before he was really able to, like, he could talk about it maybe, but he really couldn't talk about how he feels about Sierra in relation to that. He was just opening up to her. It feels like Danielle is a little bit more measured about it, and he might like that slow burn a lot more, because he might think maybe Danielle is not going to expect more. Maybe she's not going to want to push the relationship too fast. Then he's the one that gets to set the pace. And I think Michael is more comfortable in his relationships setting the pace. No matter what with Michael, I believe we might see a dynamic where he gets really close to someone and then the other person pulls back. He gets closer, then the other person moves and he pulls back. It's just going to be this constant dynamic, because I do question his readiness to be in a committed relationship. I know he wants to be there on like an intellectual level, but I don't know if he wants to be there somatically and if he's fully ready to really welcome a woman into his life and his child's life. I've spoken a lot about his grief, and that's one of the big reasons why I'm defending him, because I just believe he's not going to date the traditional way this season, and people are going to be really upset about it.
See, my prediction about him is I think he's going to go all in on Danielle. I don't actually think he's going to. I kind of think that he's not going to really question her. I bet they're still together. I bet they're still like...
Yeah. I bet they're still together. I just don't think that they're going to be engaged.
I can't tell. I mean, he kind of said that he didn't want to get engaged at the end of this. They both kind of said that already on their dates. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get engaged. I don't know whether or not they'll quote-unquote be together forever or whatever, if they'll stay together as a couple. But I do think that, again, it just comes back to like who you open your heart to. I think Michael has opened his heart to Danielle, and so even though he has all this grief, I think he's willing to go there with her. And yeah, I mean, that's all it takes. Like, it just, we always say this, it's like any relationship can work if two people are willing to work on it. And Michael is willing to make it work with Danielle despite his grief, in a way that with Sierra, it's like, because of my grief, I can't date you. And it's like,
yeah. But he was looking for any reason out. I think he
don't
really
think that's
was.
why you couldn't date her. I think you didn't want to date her. I think you just didn't want to date Sierra.
I just believe that Sierra really freaked him out. And he was like, this is
I agree.
too much.
I mean, of course, I don't like the way Sierra...
I think about it more, and it makes me uncomfortable.
That Star thing was so weird. I continue to think that was weird. I don't even think it was wrong for Michael to end things with Sierra. It feels stinky. I want the best for Michael. I hope that him and Danielle work out. It just kind of felt like a stinky start, honestly. I wish they started in a different way. Mm-hmm. Well, so clearly me and Julie are like a little bit split in terms of how we reacted to this Michael, Danielle, Sierra situation. I'm so curious to hear what other people think. Leave some comments down below. How did you feel about the way Danielle was offered up to Michael on a gold platter? How did you feel about the way their relationship started and, you know, considering everything that happened with Sierra? Yeah, what is everyone feeling about this relationship? Are we rooting for Michael and Danielle? I don't know. Clearly, production thinks that... I don't think production realized that everyone was going to turn on Michael. I think they thought that everyone was going to continue to, like, root for him for the whole season. And clearly, the internet is over him. So, what do you all think? Give us some thoughts. And by the way, if you are new here, welcome. We are two dating coaches who analyze the relationship psychology and dating themes in reality TV shows, especially Bachelor shows like Bachelor in Paradise, Bachelorette, so on and so forth. So if you're into this sort of stuff, hit that subscribe button and follow along. Join the conversation.
So let's talk about the Love Island Casa Amor split that happened in Bachelor in Paradise. What the concept basically is, if you guys didn't watch this week's episode, was the men stay inside of the house and then the women go to a hotel and they leave. So they get 5 new women to come in to date them. The women get 5 new men to date them. And then they have a week together with these new people and they figure out if they want to stay in their new coupling or go back to the old coupling. It's great TV. This is what... because it highlights just how unseriously you can take the show. They've only been dating them for 2 weeks. It's okay and acceptable to see if you have another connection with someone else because you're not fully serious with them. You're still figuring things out. It was really funny how the women were just crying and the men were confused, but they really welcomed the new people to the house a lot more readily. I thought Victoria Fuller did an amazing job at really showing how you're supposed to react in the situation, which is staying in her worth, being okay if Johnny would meet someone new, being okay to any new connections that would come her way. Just basically chilling. Like, she was just vibing on the beach, and I really, really love seeing that.
I loved when those new guys came in for the girls, but then they were, like, ignored. I don't know. I was like, guys, come on. Like, these men are, like, beautiful. It's like King Olu comes in. I don't like Tyler or Rick, but a lot of people do. And then that Australian guy whose name I don't know. I don't remember Alex. I don't think I watched his season, but they all looked so pretty when they walked in. I was like, this is great. All I
just
wanted
have
was
fun on the beach, guys. That's what I was thinking.
Brittany, Victoria, please, you deserve this. These beautiful men were served up to you on a platter. Like, come on. All I wanted was for, a little something, something. Instead, we get, like, Shanae and Logan dates. I was like, these girls aren't going to date these new guys. And the guys who are dating the new girls are all the guys who we kind of knew were going to be, not as invested in the women they were dating. I mean, Jacob, you can see that from, like, 8 miles away that he had no real interest in Jill and that he was just kind of like, she was the only one around and that's why he was dating her. But it was so obvious that Jacob wasn't that interested in Jill.
It's like, I get, once again, when you're on the beach, one day feels like a week, all you do is talk to them, all you do is spend time with them. That doesn't negate the fact that it's only been one day in real time. Like, I just hate how people try to sink so much meaning into hanging out with someone for an entire day, getting to nap, getting to eat, giving them your undivided attention. That doesn't mean that you're having meaningful conversations. That doesn't mean you know what they're like in reality. You don't know what they're doing for work. You don't know how they hang out with their friends. All of those things really matter. And for them to bank a connection based on pure proximity was so frustrating. To see Lace and Joe totally break down in tears was why I love this twist, because it just shows, like, how much they're getting their feelings invested in someone that they really don't know. And this is a really good test to be, if you really like me, then you're really going to want to stay with me despite all of these new beautiful women coming to the beach and meeting and interacting with you. You're still going to choose me. Brandon and Serene definitely had that. Like, you could tell they're fully locked down. There's no changing each other's mind, but it makes sense. All of the other guys, I knew that they were going to just be more interested in the other woman because they weren't really interested with the OGs on the beach. So just to see everyone get so emotional about it, I just thought, come on, guys. Like, be Victoria F.
Victoria and Johnny, who was my only couple that I cared about, like, the only couple that I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited for these two to hook up on the beach. I didn't really think that they were going to stay faithful to each other. I thought they were just going to hook up and, like, be done. But Johnny is not dating any other girls. Victoria's not dating any other guys.
Because they like each other. I mean, test proven, right? Like, they like each other.
I was kind of surprised, honestly. I kind of thought both of them would be like, okay, this is like a hot piece of ass I'm going to hook up with and then be done. But both of them are sticking through it, which I kind of actually, that was a welcome surprise. Although I guess next episode, the preview tease that someone is going to ask Victoria on a date, which I appreciate because I think Victoria deserves all of the love and attention. But yeah, I mean, I did like seeing the guys who did, because the guys don't know that the girls are dating other guys right now, right? So the guys are just thinking that only they have the opportunity to date other people. So I do think that I appreciated Brandon, Johnny, and Aaron. Who was it? Aaron? 3 of them just kind of being like, yeah, no, I'm going to focus on the girl that I already have. I did kind of appreciate that from them. I didn't necessarily think that I was faulting Logan or Jacob, who was the other one? Oh, Rodney, for pursuing other women. But I did appreciate the guys who were like, hey, I already know that I have a connection with someone and I'm going to stick to it. To your point, and I guess to the point of this whole twist, it's like, that's the whole point. You just figure out whether or not you actually really like the person that you're with, or if you were only with them because they were the only person to be with.
I was on the beach and I found out that the guy that I was with chose someone else. I would think, okay, not for me, moving on. If they didn't like me enough to choose to commit to me, then why am I going to waste all of this energy wanting something to be
crying
different?
about it? Exactly.
Not worth my tears. I'd be like, thank you, on to the next, goodbye. They are having the men choosing them validate something about them that the men should have never had the power to do. Yeah. I really believe that with Lace and Jill, they believe that these guys choosing them says something about their worthiness or their ability to stay on the beach. And I just think it's really, really twisted when you give someone that amount of power, because Lace was completely screwed up with the whole Rodney thing. It was hard for me to watch just how she was shaking, she was crying, she was just like, I don't want Rodney to be with someone else, and her insecurities that came out. I felt like Joe was the exact same way. And I just think you've only known them for a few days on the beach. It should not be you should not be having such a reaction, such a dramatic reaction to this, because they're just not worth it yet. You don't know anything about them to like have all of these emotions invested in you. At this time, you should just have fun dating.
I know. I wonder, too, about, like, Lace and Rodney, like, what the nature of their conversations have been for her to have had such a strong reaction. I was like, did they, like, make it seem like they were going to be just the two of them? Like, with Serene and Brandon, I do think that if Brandon had dated someone else, I would have been surprised and probably a little hurt, because the things that Brandon has been saying to Serene has been very, very much like, I'm exclusively dating you. I only want to see you. Like, I'm falling in love with you. Even Aaron has said that to Genevieve already. He was like, I'm not going to date other people. I just want to date you. He's already said that to Genevieve. So in those situations, I think that if Aaron or Brandon were to pursue other things, it would feel pretty bad for those girls in comparison to like Jill and Jacob just had their first one-on-one date like the day before the split happened. Being in a relationship is treated as like this prize. And I think that for a lot of women, maybe it is like a self-worth thing, but I think a lot of women are really primed to see being in a stable, steady relationship as this thing that if you have it, you are happy, and if you don't have it, like, your life is a mess and like you are a failure. Relationships treated as this thing to like aspire to, this like weird goal. And so I think that's why these girls weren't interested in dating these other guys, because in their head they're like, oh, well, I already have this thing that I already started working on, have this relationship already, and I just have built it up in my brain already that this is going to be my end game, even though it's only been 3 days. And so I've just already built this up in my head. And so I don't want to pursue other things, because whereas, I don't know, other people, particularly men, would see the idea of flirting with new women, flirting with new potential partners as in and of itself a reward. Like, it's fun and exciting to flirt with new people, date new people, get to know new people. These women aren't seeing that in and of itself as a reward. They're only seeing the relationship that you can get at the end as the reward. And I think that's a problem a lot of people have. And this is why you hear people talk about how much they hate dating. Dating sucks. Blah, blah, blah. You hear that all the time. It's because people don't see the actual dating process itself as something that is fun and valuable. It brings pleasure to our lives. There's a lot to be gained from enjoying getting to know new people, having new experiences with new people. But a lot of people just see dating as a means to an end. And I think that that's kind of why these girls had such a huge breakdown, because they're not actually interested in dating. They're interested in getting the prize, which is a relationship commitment. Honestly, I felt kind of bad for them, because it's like all of these beautiful boys, they're in this 5-star hotel, like they kind of have such a great opportunity to like hang out, get to know people, and they're all just like crying in bed together, like in their corner. I'm like, why are you miserable? This is a situation for like so much joy and pleasure and fun, and like you're making yourselves miserable. Meanwhile, the guys over there are all having a good time.
For me as a dating coach who like specifically coaches my clients on how to have fun in dating and to see each interaction as like this act of vulnerability. If someone is on that beach, that means I am single and I'm looking for love. Explore that with the person. Instead of being so affixed to what you might have with someone, really give yourself the opportunity to date around and see if what you have is worth fully committing to. And if the person doesn't want to commit back to you after the twist is over, that's okay, because in a relationship, you both mutually need to consent and opt into each other. How I saw the twist was it just highlighted to me how superficial the connections really were on the beach. That the people, like even as we're talking about the Michael, Sierra, Danielle thing, the reason why I don't see a problem with it is because Michael just didn't like Sierra enough and he liked Danielle more. And that's all it simply is. And that's what we're seeing play out of all of the people on the beach. But they're taking it so seriously and they're getting so worked up about it. They're wasting their time crying about it. And to me, I would be just really thankful if it happened to me. Like, I would know I'm not wasting my time with this guy anymore because he can't give me what I'm looking for. I'm just going to keep having fun and doing my thing and centering my ability for pleasure above all else.
Like, dating should be fun. This is what I teach in my coaching practice as well. It's a huge part of making dating into something that isn't a drag. It's not just a means to an end, right?
Because it's like, so boring when you date that way.
Right. If you spend a day with someone and you know immediately that they're not a match, that's okay. You get to have like a fun evening with them. You get dinner with someone. You get to have a connection with someone. You get to learn about someone's life. Even if you're like, oh yeah, this person definitely can't be my partner because we're misaligned in XYZ ways, or maybe like I don't actually think that he's interested in me in that way. That doesn't mean that you can't still have a good time on your date. And so I think that all of these girls were really they were pigeonholed into this idea that like I can only pursue things that have long-term potential, as opposed to seeing connections as exactly what they are, just like an opportunity to have fun with someone in the moment, be present in the moment, and enjoy pleasure. Even if you don't want to make out with any of these guys, like they were just like literally standing off, like standoffish with the guys. They wouldn't even talk to them. I'm like, what's happening right now? Like, you can sit down and have a conversation with Olu, with Rick, with the hot Australian guy. Like, come on, live a little. He's Australian. Come on.
And it doesn't have to mean anything. Like, you can have a connection with them without the romantic undertone to it. You can just get to know the people and have fun of the idea that they're being invited into this experience. You don't know what's going to happen of your connection. But that's the whole point of this twist. It's to highlight these insecurities and to solidify the connections that are actually sturdy.
Well, that takes us really neatly into the Lacey, Rodney, Eliza triangle situation, because clearly Lace and Rodney were not as secure as at least Lace thought. I don't know why Lace had that in her head, but Rodney and Eliza, woo!
Yeah, that's a match.
So into it. Listen, I don't even know. Like, on their one-on-one date, they were just kind of talking about how interested they were in each other. And I somehow started tearing up because I was like, oh my God, they're just, the joy that they both clearly have spending this time together. They're just so energetically, like, aligned. They're vibing so much. I was like, this is literally beautiful to watch. It's just such an authentic connection. And I was just so moved by it, honestly. This is what the goal is, honestly, is to have those kinds of moments with people. And I just loved seeing them. I loved seeing two kind of good, sweet, beautiful people hit it off and just actually really, really like each other. And no pretenses, no games. They were just kind of like, I'm really into you. You're really into me. Let's hang out and kiss. I'm like, ugh. We love it. I love to see it. This is a pair that I am actually, I think of all the couples, honestly, on this beach, I think I am most excited about these two because it just so, I don't know, the energy was just so good between them. Sorry, Lays, I know it sucks. It's sad, but like, it's just a better connection at the end of the day, like clearly.
That's what it is. The better connection wins at the end. That's how dating works. And Rodney and Eliza just fit. to me, Rodney and Lace always seemed a little bit weird.
Oh my gosh, they seemed so weird.
They were weird. Not like, they kind of matched, but I was like, it seems more like a fling for Rodney versus for Eliza.
Totally.
I hated seeing Lace walk down. Like, she was so worked up about it that I'm sure the producers were like, this is juicy. Go down to the beach, confront Rodney, see how he's feeling. I hate bro code in this situation. They were just all so shitty really about weird. It. They could have at least just been like, let's talk about your feelings. Are you doing okay? They just all kept saying, it's not my place to say anything about Rodney and his connection of Eliza, but how are the women doing? Are you by yourself? It's anyone else coming? I didn't like that because I could, like, Lace was already so emotional, and then she became a lot more worked up because she was like, you're not answering my questions, but you're asking me all of these questions. What is happening? Can you tell me anything about Rodney? And the men were just all, ugh, I hate it. Like, this fraternity of shittiness.
It was such, like you said, bro code. I was like, guys,
I hate it.
Be normal. Well, I appreciated that Michael went over and kind of like hugged Lace. I was like, all right, like,
I know, but bare minimum. The bar is so low. He just gave her a little hug and then just let her like shake. She was just like,
oh God, yeah, that was kind of sad. I'm interested to see how the conversation will go tomorrow, but it does feel like, you know, there wasn't a commitment between Rodney and Lace just yet, and so yeah, that's just kind of how it goes. I mean, she says in the preview that she feels really betrayed, and I validate why she would feel like that, and at the same time, it's like people need to be careful with their hearts, I guess. You know, people need to be careful with just assuming that people that they're dating, someone that they're really into, is feeling the same way about you, right? And like, I think that hooking on to someone, to a relationship prior to a foundation being set, like, it's kind of like you're walking, you like have like a cloth over your eyes and you're walking out into the abyss and you're just like, I'm gonna assume there's ground here. Oh no, there's no ground here. I've fallen like into the water and like I'm mad at Rodney for it. But it's like, why would you just assume there was ground there? Sorry, this was like a bad metaphor, but like
but I like it because it harkens back to like a very original relationship quote that I always think about. Like, to me, I think falling in love with your eyes closed is really dangerous. It's better to walk into it with your eyes open intentionally and fully aware what's happening.
Right.
And these women were just, at least some of the women were just totally blindfolded to the signals that were being given to them because they were so sunk into the storyline of what it could be, the relationship that they want, the prize that they're gunning after, that it's like, come on, guys. Like, I don't know. It was like, just so hard to watch.
It is so hard to watch. It's like, one, to your point, be like Victoria, be confident, like confident in yourself that like your guy, if he like really likes you, he's gonna be sitting there on the beach waiting for you. One, like, and for who said that? I think it was Jill or Genevieve. They were like, of course they're gonna go for it. They're men. And I was like, what's this weird thing? I'm like, this weird pop psychology thing. I was like, you're just all foiling yourselves. Like, either. It's like, if you don't trust this guy to be faithful to you, why are you crying over it? It's like, clearly you had no faith in Jacob anyway. And so why did you attach your hopes, your well-being to his behavior? If you don't even trust him to do the thing that you want anyway, don't attach your well-being to someone that you don't even trust. Like, to me, this is just obvious, and it's like, oh well, you can't trust any man. And it's like, no, that's not true. There's plenty of men that you can trust.
Just this man. You don't trust this man. This is a tough love episode, but I really did mean this, and I kind of stand behind what at least you and me are saying. They kind of got themselves in this predicament because they did not judge the men clearly. The bar was so low that, of course, they're going to trip over it. The men are not going to be able to give them exactly what they need. And instead of them thinking about what's best for their experience, they are going to continue to harden these beliefs about men in a really negative way. So I don't know, like, another thing about the show that I'm just not loving is how they are really highlighting toxic patterns in dating, because no one should date this way. Like, 100%, you should not date this way. You need to have fun, and you need to be with someone that chooses you back. You need to pay attention to them. It's hard to have a 2-week relationship romance on a TV show be the reason why you are debilitated in bed, crying, unable to move, unable to see anyone else, like so in your head, letting your anxieties eat you alive. No man, no woman ever deserves that type of, like, they should never take that power away from you. So for me to watch that this week was just so frustrating, because maybe they are getting regular therapists. If they are, I don't see it, because the therapist would tell them to center back on their experience, and we didn't see that. Yeah. They just got deeper and deeper into, like, their shit. So I don't know. I hated that part of the week.
Someone really gives you the hot Australian guy in Oulu and says, hang out for a week in this 5-star hotel, and you
have
spend
fun.
the time
Eat
crying in bed.
Yeah.
I just can't.
You're in air conditioning. You know what I mean?
Relate.
It's just so frustrating.
It's like, that is a sign that it's like, oh my gosh, you are hurting yourself. You are in this wonderful situation, and you are not letting yourself be happy. Like, that is something you gotta look inside and figure out what is going on. Why am I not letting myself feel the joy and the pleasure of this situation? What are the limiting beliefs that are holding me back from being able to be present in my life? And they're not getting them anywhere. They're not getting you relationships. Clearly, these beliefs are not helping you find love. They're not doing anything for you, right? And so it's like, you need to figure out, it's okay if you want to be in a relationship, yada, 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 that's fine. But this pattern, this way of dating is not getting you there. And it's also not getting you happiness. It's doing nothing for you. So clearly something is not working, and you need to do things differently. Like,
100%. And we'll leave it at that. But I mean, I will say that their feelings are valid, but to an extent. As soon as you begin wallowing, as soon as it is debilitating you, and it's saying something about your worth, it's saying something about who you are, it's consuming your mind, it's affecting the way that you're interacting with people in a long-term way, that's when it becomes really, really dangerous. And that's why, once again, I bring it back to our girl Victoria and Serene. They had some tears, but they're having fun. They're talking to the women on the beach. They're talking to the men. They're not making it seem so meaningful and significant. They're just rolling with the punches, and that kind of mentality, that flexibility in dating, is the reason why they're gonna last of Johnny and they're gonna last of Brandon. Like, the men gave them that security.
So right. You're so right. It's like, notice the people who are like breaking down are the people who are in the most insecure relationships and who lack the most confidence, versus the people who have guys who are committing to them are the ones who are confident, right? They're the ones who are not gonna show up back up on the beach and like scream at these boys. Although, granted, I do think Genevieve would scream at Aaron.
Regardless of anything he did. If he did something great, she's gonna yell at him. So
maybe she's the exception. Yeah, exception to what I just said.
She's a drama queen.
It was painful to see these girls just letting this get to them in a way that it really just shouldn't have had that kind of power over them. It just shouldn't have.
Yeah. It should be a really big tell for them. Like, for them to be this freaked out about it, it should be like, is any man worth the tears? Never.
I know. I mean,
never, woman. If you're watching this, never, ever, ever. No man is worth these tears.
I know. I think back to a quote. Actually, this is not a quote, but I think my dad told me this once. And
I need to hear Kelly's dad's quote.
And I think it was from back when I think in college, and I was really stressed about some work thing or school thing. I don't remember what I was stressed about. And my dad was basically, and it was like so weighing on me. I think I was in this state of like, I was so devastated in a way that like Lace was devastated. I was like, devastated about whatever it was. I can't even remember what it was. And my dad was like, nothing, truly nothing should matter to you that much that it can destroy you. And I was like, it sounds harsh. It's like a very harsh thing to think, because like obviously you want to care about stuff, and we all care about stuff a lot. But I kind of thought, I think back to that all the time because it's true. It's like, whatever may happen, it's like I failed an exam, my job fired me, my boyfriend dumped me, whatever happens, I'm gonna be okay. Nothing needs to devastate me to the point that I am not functional. We're humans. We have emotions. Like, I'm not saying don't feel your feelings. I mean, I get sad all the time. But I do think about this all the time. It's like, at the end of the day, like, even though I wanted something so badly, or I didn't want something to happen that happened, I know I'm going to be all right. And how I respond to this situation is 50% of how this is going to play out for me, right? Like at the end of the day, like what's going to happen in the future, 50% of it comes down to how I am going to view the situation and respond to the situation. Feel your feelings, and then like I have control over how I'm going to move through these next 4 days for the girls at this hotel. I have control over how this is going to affect me, and I can shift the way I'm thinking about it instead of just wallowing. Feel your feelings, but also allow yourselves to be happy, people. Allow yourselves to be happy.
Yeah, we're stronger than we think, and that is such wise words from your dad, because I fully agree with that. You could be in a relationship with someone for a long, long, long time, and then they break up with you. Of course you're going to be sad. Of course you're going to be devastated, but you still have yourself. You can still move on, and you can still find love again. There's always a bright lining to every situation, and I felt like this show, to your point, the most insecure girls that were the least confident in themselves, you really saw them break down over these men. They would do those cuts where like the women are crying and the men are just like frolicking on the beach. Mm-hmm. Come on, like let's get it together. Let's have some fun. Let's bring pleasure back into dating, and let's center yourself above anything else. You are what matters with yourself the most. Like your relationship with you matters before your relationship with anyone else in your life, your family, your partner, your children. How you treat yourself really expresses the way that you treat other people. So that's everyone's like learning teachable moment for today.
So what did you all think about the split? What did you think about the Casa Amor style, girls go here, boys go here, date other people thing? How do you feel about the way the boys reacted? How do you feel about the way the girls reacted? Do you think that the girls were within their right to be upset? Do you think that the guys were within their right to explore things? Tell us all your thoughts down below. If you've watched to this point in the video and you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, hit that subscribe button. We do this every single week. We recap every single episode of The Bachelor in Paradise, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single video. Bye!
Bye!